Have you ever sat still, knowing what must be done, yet felt chained by inaction? Hours pass, filled with distractions and silent guilt. You whisper to yourself, "Why can't I move?" But the brutal honesty is that it's not laziness. Behind the mask of laziness are fears, lack of direction, and pressures about success or failure. We often label ourselves as lazy as an excuse to avoid facing the real challenges within our souls and in our lives. In today's video, we will together dismantle the facade of laziness with 6 lessons from Stoic philosophy to uncover the true barriers that hinder our progress. Let's explore to abandon the so-called laziness and embark on a new journey of self-discovery and action. If you're ready, let's dive in. 1. The just 5 minutes rule. Starting is half the battle. Laziness rarely announces itself as laziness. It wears the mask of fatigue, distraction, overthinking. You look at a task, something important, meaningful even, and suddenly your mind becomes a courtroom of excuses. I'm tired. It's too much. I'll do it later. I've stood in that courtroom more times than I care to admit, but I learned something that changed the game. You don't need to conquer the whole mountain. You just need to take one step. I call it the just 5 minutes rule. I tell myself, I don't need to finish this. I just need to begin. 5 minutes, that's all. I set a timer, lower the stakes, and start. Often that's all it takes, because once you're moving, momentum builds. The resistance dies down. The fog clears. Marcus Aurelius said, "Do what nature demands. Get to work, like a soldier storming the breach." But even a soldier doesn't leap into battle without grounding his feet first. These 5 minutes are how I ground myself. They turn intention into action. Even if I stop afterward, I've still moved. I've disrupted the grip of passivity, and the beauty of it? Laziness loses its hold the moment you act, even a little. Because action, even the smallest kind, is a declaration. I am not ruled by mood. I am ruled by will. That's Stoic discipline in motion. 2. Scale down the mountain. The truth is, laziness often hides behind the mask of overwhelm. You look at the whole task, the size of the thing, and your mind recoils. It's like standing at the foot of a mountain with no visible path up, so you freeze. I've been there, stuck before even starting, not because I didn't care, but because the weight of everything felt like too much. The Stoics teach us to respond with reason, not fear. So instead of panicking at the height of the mountain, I learned to focus on the next step. Just the next one. Marcus Aurelius said, "Don't let your imagination be crushed by life as a whole. Don't try to picture everything bad that could possibly happen. Stick with the situation at hand." That wisdom applies to work too. Don't try to do it all at once. Break it down. Fragment the giant into pieces you can hold in your hands. For me, it meant turning write the report into create the outline, then jot down the first sentence, then edit paragraph 1, like snapping Lego bricks together. Each small win builds structure. Each checked box proves that the task isn't impossible. It's just a collection of smaller, doable things. And when I physically write those steps down, it pulls them out of the anxious fog of thought and anchors them in reality. Tangible, clear, manageable. The Stoic path is not about heroics, it's about discipline. Task by task, step by step, brick by brick. 3. The power of why. There's a kind of laziness that doesn't come from tiredness, it comes from emptiness. I've felt it. You stare at the task, not because it's hard, but because it feels hollow, meaningless. You know what to do, but not why you're doing it. And without a reason, action becomes a burden. The Stoics warned against this drift. Seneca wrote, "If a man knows not which port he sails, no wind is favorable." In other words, if you don't have a clear purpose, even the smallest task feels pointless. What changed things for me was learning to trace every action back to its deeper purpose. When I said, "I need to exercise," I paused and asked, why? Not just for aesthetics, but to be strong enough to carry my future children, to live with energy, to be dependable, not just for others, but for myself. That shift turned a routine into a mission. The same goes for work. Finish this project becomes earn trust, build discipline, create freedom. When you align your task with your core values, health, strength, legacy, self-respect, it stops being a chore. It becomes an expression of who you want to be. And when laziness whispers, "What's the point?" you can answer clearly. Every action, no matter how small, is a stroke in the painting of your character. The Stoic doesn't act for applause. He acts because it is right, because it aligns with his nature, because it serves a greater aim. So ask yourself, not just what needs to be done, but why you must do it. 4. Make it easy to act. The Stoics believed in living with intention, and that includes the space you inhabit. I've learned this the hard way. On days when my desk was cluttered, my phone buzzing, and my room in disarray, I found it nearly impossible to focus. My thoughts felt as scattered as my surroundings. Seneca once said, "Order is the foundation of all things." And I've come to realize he wasn't just talking about the cosmos. He was talking about the conditions we create for action. Laziness finds easy shelter in chaos. A messy room becomes a reason to delay. A noisy phone becomes a rope pulling you away from the task at hand. So I began treating my space like a reflection of my mind. Before I started any task, I cleared the clutter, gathered my tools, shut down distractions, and set the stage like a craftsman preparing his bench. This wasn't about perfection. It was about intention. A clean, ready environment doesn't guarantee action, but it removes the friction. It silences the little excuses before they take root. It tells your mind, this is a place for doing. Just as a Stoic prepares for life's trials by strengthening the soul, we prepare for daily effort by shaping our surroundings. Every object in its place, every distraction removed. These are small acts of discipline that build momentum before a single task even begins. Because when the path is clear, the will has less resistance, and clarity, like virtue, begins at the source. 5. Be accountable. The Stoics taught that we are not isolated beings, we are part of a greater whole. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "What brings no benefit to the hive brings none to the bee." Even in the pursuit of personal discipline, connection matters. I used to think self-mastery meant doing it all alone. But over time, I saw the value in inviting others into my process, not as crutches, but as mirrors. When I told a friend about my goal and asked them to check in, something shifted. The task no longer lived in silence. Now it had weight. Witness. Laziness often thrives in secrecy. It loves the shadows where no one's watching. But when you bring your intentions into the light, when someone else is expecting a report, an update, a simple, "Did you do what you said you would?" it sharpens your resolve. It's not about fear of judgment, it's about respect for your word, for the process, and for the person who stands beside you, not to carry your load, but to remind you that you can. An accountability partner doesn't just help you stay on track, they keep you honest. They turn your goal from a vague hope into a shared commitment. And when you stumble, as you will, they offer perspective, not pity. They remind you to rise, refocus, and begin again. Even Epictetus had students. Even warriors trained in ranks. You don't have to walk the path alone. And sometimes, simply knowing someone else is watching, not to punish, but to witness, can be the push that gets you through the resistance. Choose your allies wisely, and honor them by acting with discipline. 6. Forgive yourself and begin again. Even with all the tools, all the intentions, there are still days when laziness wins, days when the body feels heavy, and the will even heavier. I've had them. You likely have too. The danger isn't in the moment of failure. It's in what follows. That inner voice that says, "You've already failed. Why bother now?" But the Stoics remind us, you are not your mistakes. You are your response to them. Epictetus taught, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you stumble, when you fall into inaction, the Stoic path is not to indulge in guilt or self-criticism. It is to observe the slip with clarity, learn from it, and return to the path, without drama, without delay. There is strength in starting again, not once, not twice, but as many times as necessary. For a long time I would sabotage an entire day because I missed a morning routine or gave in to distraction. But I realized that this all-or-nothing mindset wasn't discipline, it was pride. The Stoic, by contrast, is humble. He doesn't expect perfection, he expects effort. So when I falter now, I pause, I breathe. I say to myself, you fell short, but you're not finished. Then I act. I write the next sentence. I do the next task. I return to the moment where all power lives. Guilt changes nothing. Action changes everything. Every moment is a chance to begin again, not from the start, but from here, stronger, wiser, more aware. The Stoic doesn't seek to never fall. He seeks to rise again and again with grace. Laziness isn't the enemy. It's a signal, a sign that something needs adjusting. Your mindset, your environment, your purpose. These 6 Stoic strategies aren't just hacks. They're principles forged through experience and grounded in self-respect. You won't always win every battle against resistance, but you can show up. You can begin again. And each time you do, you're shaping something far greater than productivity. You're shaping your character. So don't wait for motivation. Act with intention. Start small. Stay honest. And remember, the disciplined life is the free life.